My mother was a fashionista, and she had an incredible shoe collection. One of her requests for her funeral was that she had an open casket so people could see the stunning shoes she was to be buried in. We displayed about a dozen of her most fabulous pairs at the repast, and all of her daughters agreed to wear a fancy pair of heels at the funeral. I did not have any that were seasonably appropriate, so I made some. These were a pair of old suede heels that were starting to come apart, so I wanted to give them one last hurrah. Normally for suede shoes, you don't paint them, you dye them, because once paint is applied, it changes the texture of the shoe and loses, that suede quality. But since these were really old, I didn't think it mattered too much, and they're my shoes anyway. I painted these the night before her funeral, so if they turned out bad, they turned out bad. If they turned out good, they turned out good. Either way, I was wearing these shoes. The design for the shoe was pretty simple. I wanted to do yellow roses and lilies because my mother loved to have fresh flowers on our dining room table, and she always requested either one of those flowers for either Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. I used a white charcoal pencil for sketching so that my lines would be very clear to see and also very easy to wipe off if I made any mistakes. Once I liked the layout of the petals, I started layering my paint. Since this is suede, you have to apply a lot of layers for the paint to soak into the fibers. Normally for a shoe design, I estimate 3 to 5 layers of paint going from your base white or your base black to your actual colors. This pair probably received closer to 10. I wasn't counting, but I did have to bust out the blow dryer a lot more than usual so that I could apply more and more paint. And this isn't straight acrylic paint going onto the shoe. It is thinned down, and you do have to do that so that the paint can be more workable, and then you just don't have huge globs of paint on top of the fabric. I painted in the highlights of the roses first so I would have an almost pure white background to work with when I applied the shades of yellow. The darkest parts of the flower received the least amount of white paint. On the left foot, I centered the flower on a part of the shoe where the suede had completely rubbed off. I'm not sure how, I just know I'm accident prone. I started the same process with the sketch and layers like on the right foot. And since it was missing suede on that part of the shoe, it was kind of hard to layer because as soon as I would put paint down, I would get little crummy bits of the shoe coming back on the brush. So I had to constantly wipe my brush off, get more paint, get the crud off, and then it was just a process. Once the highlights were in place, I moved back to the right foot. And I had a little too much moisture on my brush, so the paint kind of went everywhere and bled all over my lines. But I had to soldier on because I had to wear these shoes in 12 hours, no matter how they looked. I mixed varying degrees of yellow and orange and began coloring in the shapes and adding in more roses over the scuff marks and tears. I clearly remember the day my mom got me these shoes. She was in the mall that I used to work at, and after a long shift, she took me shopping for Christmas shoes. I was dead tired and my feet already hurt, so finding a comfortable pair of heels was going to be a challenge. After trying on a couple pairs, I did my usual routine while heel shopping. Running up and down the aisles and doing jump squats. My mom watched me for a little while, and then she quietly laughed and told me, "Okay, stop." I smiled and replied, "I need shouting shoes for church. You never know what the Lord is gonna do." She did her quiet, usual laugh, and then we picked out a second pair to qualify for the sale. And then we went home. So now that the roses are mostly covering the shoe and mostly colored in, I started adding in some lilies and some other spots, again trying to cover up the scuff marks and the tears in the shoe. I wasn't sure how much of the shoe I wanted to cover and how much I actually wanted to paint. I just wanted to make sure that the damaged parts of the shoes were covered and that the shoes looked kind of nice. So I started freehanding a lot of stuff. I added in more lilies, I added in a sunflower, leaves, and vine looking things. Just adding in more things to give the shoes more life. Once I was happy for how the flowers looked, I started adding in some gold vines or branches, what have you, in some smaller parts of the shoe just to give it some more razzle-dazzle. And then I decided to paint the perimeter of the shoe gold. It was very much in the moment type of thing. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. Let's add on another half hour to this project. But I think it turned out pretty nice. One thing that I did not record was me putting the finisher on the shoes. You have to put finisher on your shoes after you're done painting, because otherwise, you know, the rain, the mud, the elements are gonna get at the shoe, and it did rain on the day of my mother's funeral, and I expected it to rain, and I knew I'd have to walk to the gravesite in rain, so I was like, I really want to make sure that these shoes are protected. Even if I only wear them once, I want to make sure that they look nice for the whole day. And because I applied finisher to the shoe, it no longer has that suede, you know, you touch it and the fabric moves type of texture. It just stuck the way that it is, but I'm fine with that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you everybody for your kind words and your prayers and your thoughts. It means a lot. It took me a while to edit this video because some days it still doesn't feel real. But thank you everybody for watching. If you want to check out other shoes that I've painted, I have a playlist. If you want to check out other artwork I've made, you can go to tinastextportraits.com, or you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook or all that jazz.